Wait, what's this poll looking like? Peeing in the shower, base to cringe. I'm not going to tell you which one I'm weighing in on. I am going to weigh in, and I'm going to say, listen, I think I've made my my stance known. Joe Rogan has had his fair number of controversial segments over his long history of performing the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, one of the biggest, if not, it's the biggest podcast in the world, right? The biggest podcast in the world. Because of that, this means he has many an episode that has extremely controversial people on it. And with his move to Spotify, a lot of those controversial ones got taken off. The number, I don't remember the number specifically, but a fair number of episodes from the Joe Rogan podcast over the time that it's been around have not made its way over to Spotify, and a lot of those episodes are actually off the Joe Rogan platform with his YouTube channel entirely. All right, it's hard to find them. Now, this does not mean that they're gone. It's very rarely does stuff that's on the internet completely disappear. And now one thing that has not disappeared from Joe Rogan's discography is this one clip from this one guy, Charles C. Johnson, who he had on episode 640 of the Joe Rogan Experience, a comment that he made about black people in specifically is making the rounds again. Let's take a little look at it. Let's see what this guy has to say. We love listening to people say things, right? People have the best things to say sometimes. So I think that this would be a great experience to see what other human beings think in this world, right? That's always a good thing, right? Right? Yeah.
There's this whole debate about the MAOA gene, which is like this gene that black Africans have, like much, it's like a proclivity to violence that they have.
MAOA gene.
Yeah. I recommend people Google it and do their own research. It's like a big debate about whether or not, but basically like what it is it's, if you think about like, kind of white European, Asian ancestors, as we kind of moved out of Africa, like aggression and violence was kind of less necessary because we were like farmers and stuff.
But right? God, is that really true?
There's this whole
God, is that really true? Interesting question, Joe. Great question to ask, because the answer may surprise you. If you're stupid, the answer is no. The answer is no, that doesn't exist. It's like saying that there's a really big debate is like saying that there's a really big debate when it comes to climate change. There's not. There's a bunch of really smart people who say their climate change exists, and some stupid people at the fringes who just have some questions, is it really us? Is it the leprechauns under my bed that are really making climate change with a really hot breath? Maybe that's what it is. Is it really climate change? I mean, like, did you see last winter? It was super cold. Imagine being on the Titanic. The boat is sinking, okay? And some other person's like, what do you mean the boat's sinking? My side just got 200 feet higher. And then being like, yes, there's a heated debate. There's a heated debate on whether the Titanic is sinking or not. No, there isn't. There's some people very stupid, and there's some with some bunk studies and some bunk science, and the majority of the scientific community that knows for a fact that this is not true. That doesn't exist. All right? That doesn't exist. This warrior gene has been debunked time and time and time again. There's no singular gene or even like small clusters of genes that we know of at the moment that makes you more that makes you more like prone to violence. And to sit here and say that black people are the ones that are more prone to violence, or even that moving out of Africa is what made you less prone to violence. I'm sorry. You want to take a quick history of you want to take a quick history lesson down what Europeans have been doing ever since that they waddled the way out of Africa? Okay, you want to talk about the Inquisitions? You want to talk about the Crusades? Their Christian jihads? You want to talk about World War I and World War II? What about that? What about the transatlantic slave trade? What about? I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about. All the wars that went on between, even all the unnamed wars that we can that were waged between Europeans fighting other Europeans. We can talk about the American Civil War. We can talk about the French Civil War. There's so many things. The Vikings. I mean, come on, what are you talking about? And that's just Europeans. We can talk about Asia. We can talk about Asia as well if you want. But I'm not sure if you want to go into all of that, all the fighting that went on between other Asian continents as well. Like the fact, and like what's been going on with Africa. Can you name a single war that's been really going on in Africa? Can you? You want to talk about King Leopold III? Want to talk about that? Or like the Scramble for Africa, all the violence that went on there? Like the idea that black people are the ones that are like so incredibly violent while other races or cultures or something are so like so kind and nice is the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard in my entire life. It makes literally no sense. And yeah, you're right. The idea that there was no farming in Africa, what's even happening? What are you talking about? What's even happening? What's even happening? A lot of places in sub-Saharan Africa, they moved around a lot because the where they were, it made it really hard to kind of settle down sometimes. Like I remember specifically, there's this one thing that people said that the wheel didn't exist in sub-Saharan Africa. They didn't invent the wheel. The thing is, here, buddy, wait a second. Come close to me. Come close. Can you please tell me how useful a fucking wheel is in the desert? Not that useful. Actually, they invented wheels. They didn't use them because there's no reason to use a fucking wheel over sand dunes, dipshit. Be like, why didn't they just ride their gator over the sand dunes? Those weird little Africans. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean? I'm sorry. They did exactly for what they had. They did extremely well. There were like massive civilizations. You probably didn't hear about that though, through your history class. You probably didn't. And that's okay. But don't come over here and talk to me about all your incredible idiocy and your lack of knowledge. You shouldn't be flexing. You shouldn't be flexing your ignorance to us like this, okay? I promise you there's more things out there for you than flexing your ignorance to Joe Rogan's audience, all right? And even Joe Rogan's audience weren't even weren't even liking this, okay? Because 6 years ago, this actual episode was posted on his subreddit, the Joe Rogan subreddit. This is the one right here. A monkey? You would see? He got all the monkey. This is him. Charles C. Johnson, episode 640. Hey, we should watch it. Actually, you know what? Let's watch the episode really quick. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because Joe Rogan actually had to take it off of his channel. Oh, whoop. I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. Whoops. Oh, man, that's so unfortunate. Anyways, even his own audience didn't like this episode. The Obama administration is pushing the idea that cops are evil predators. They want to take over the police departments, to take over the cities. This guy just spouted off dumb shit after dumb shit after dumb shit on this podcast, and they didn't want anything to do with it. Even they were like, bro, this podcast is like insane, dude. This is not a good one, like at all. They were actually, yeah. Some people wake up every day and to fuck the system. They have enough funding to do this. What the fuck? This guy is crazy. What about the Tea Party that actually wants to destroy many parts of the government? Yep. And holy shit, I'm done. Joe isn't even really calling him out. Disappointed in Rogan. Feel free to add to this list. Call out anything that might misrepresent this gentleman. This one gentleman. 39 upvotes, and even this post itself wasn't even that highly liked. 74% upvoted is not very good on Joe Rogan's subreddit himself. 14 minutes in, and this guy is doing nothing but bringing up blacks are naturally flawed facts, like hearing the different points. Check the website he founded, Got News, front page story, exclusive. Did that Aryan Nation guy actually kill a child molester? Do we hide our eyes and not search for the truth when the truth may be uncomfortable, especially when a neo-Nazi murderer called tattoos is involved? Oh my gosh. There's an entire section for race in the news. He has an entire section on the website he founded for race. Corrupt black judge lets black thug out of prison because white victim's toddler is racist. This guy is out of his mind. This guy is out of his mind. And Joe Rogan didn't do much to push back against this. I mean, this is a typical criticism that we have against Rogan, is that a lot of the times when it comes to these certain things and things that he's like, when it comes to these certain like topics that he's bringing up or people that he's talking about or to, they're able to spout off a lot of nonsense. And if he's not really, and he hasn't probably done too much research into it, like he says, he has a lot of guys on, he has let a lot of people talk their shit, and he's not able to push back on all of it. Maybe I highly doubt that he would allow like a bunch of racism to just go. I think he's really skeptical of a lot of things, but the thing is, just being skeptical of something is different from actually being able to challenge something. If he's unable to challenge the views, which a lot of the times, if he hasn't done research into it beforehand, a lot of people can get away with saying a lot of really dumb things, like this guy, where he can go, is that really true? But stopping the entire podcast to have this guy look this certain stuff up, look around at the certain like Weasley holes that he's trying to bury himself in to make his argument seem a little bit more true, is not something that Rogan does. He just doesn't do that, right? He just has people on and they can just talk about stuff, right? He's not prepared to deal with people who spread misinformation about these certain people, and he can maybe be like, man, is that really true? And like make people be like, I'm not really, I don't really want to endorse these views. But not endorsing the views and being able to challenge them are two incredibly different things entirely. And this is just another really big black mark on, I think, Joe Rogan's history. For me, I don't hate Joe Rogan necessarily. I don't think that he's like a big fucking dumb fuck. I think that he uses his platform irresponsibly at times, and this is one really big reason why one of those things happened, and why this episode you can't find it on his YouTube channel anymore. You can't find it on his Spotify. You can't find it anywhere except for these certain places where these like Twitter or his podcast or on like other sites where it was like re-uploaded to find it, because he doesn't want anything to do with it anymore. All right, he doesn't want anything to do with it. And I hope like in the future, it may happen, it may not, but my hope is in the future that these certain things don't happen moving into the future anymore, because this sort of misinformation is deadly to people. This guy is, listen, I don't want to say these racist, but he's dancing around like racist territory in the way that I find incredibly worrying to have just on a massive platform like Rogan's without any pushback basically whatsoever, that even his fans say that he didn't get into. This is just a really big, this is just a problem. Someone even got like a screenshot of old Twitter. Boy, look at old Twitter. Just so we're clear, I don't think genetics mean you'll be violent. I don't think genetics mean you'll be violent. Lots of people have asked me to elaborate on my claim that blacks are more violent. There is an MAOA gene, for example. Oh, well, interesting. Please don't just say things like that. Link reputable studies. Many black people rightfully find such statements offensive. So he was able to do this, right? He did tweet this out, right? And we don't have the entire context of the argument itself. I'm just saying, from what we've seen and what other people have said from watching it, that there was no real substantive walk back of these certain statements or pushback of them in any real meaningful way. He's too naive to view those beliefs as dangerous. Yeah, he may not even view them as like that dangerous. It's more like, oh, this is like pretty offensive, and not, oh, this is really, really dangerous. So yeah, there's Joe Rogan.